And the holidays may mean a break from school, right? But they don't have to be a break from learning. Yes, we want to keep our kids' brains just sharp as they can be. So joining us this morning is Lori, Early Learning Director with Read On Arizona, to share how families can really boost literacy even during these holiday breaks. So Lori, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having
We appreciate it. So first I want to start with kind of the issue. What did you guys find when kids were going on holiday breaks, summer breaks, just different breaks, where things kind of got a little bit, dropped off with the learning?
Yes, so when children tend to go on breaks, they want to relax, they want to have fun, they want to be able to sleep in, and so their top priority is not necessarily breaking out a book and opening it up and wanting to read or sitting there and studying during their break time. So sometimes, depending on how long the break is, there can be a little bit of a learning loss. Sometimes we see that more so in the summertime, but holiday breaks, whether that's the Thanksgiving or the winter holiday breaks, are excellent times to reinforce those skills at home.
Yeah, just reinforce them. And we can do, little things to do about this or to help this out when you're at home. Tell me some of the ways we can encourage our little ones then to, keep literacy and keep learning kind of tip-top shape.
Yes, so there's ways that we can introduce great vocabulary during the holiday season. Maybe these are new or interesting words that they have not had the opportunity to hear before. Vocabulary is this activity of developing word meaning that actually builds reading comprehension skills. So when we think about the holidays, there's an opportunity to introduce words like mistletoe, cornucopia, and those are great ways in which to say, like, when we think about mistletoe, what is that? Can we talk about science and plants? What does it mean for something to be semi-parasitic? When we think about, cornucopia, if we have older students, let's talk about, Greek mythology. What are those word origins? Those are great opportunities to build those skills, and when they're relevant and when they're meaningful, they tend to stick.
Yes, very true. And this ties into something they're already loving, right? Like getting to take a break, looking at the traditions that you have with your family. If it is putting up, a mistletoe maybe around, or, we talked about the cornucopia, right? First, that will be a fun word for them to get out in the first place. And even, test their knowledge on spelling. But there are some other ways that really our holiday traditions and moments can just build up their knowledge.
Yes, and some great ways to do that. You already mentioned traditions. There's also ways for students to create their own stories based on the words that they hear during the holiday time frame. They can take out their pen and paper, they can doodle, they can make those word connections, they can create their own stories during that time frame. Another great way to incorporate literacy and math, when you think about the holidays, you think about cooking. What an excellent opportunity to introduce measurement and introduce those recipe cards, going to the grocery store. Literacy involves more than just reading a book. Sometimes it's exploring what happens in the grocery store and reading those labels and reading those signs inside the store.
Yeah, that's so true. And sometimes, if my nieces or nephew and they don't want to, participate in reading with me or something, I'll just, kind of pretend I don't know. How do I say this word? How do I do? Because they love to teach the adults back, right? Like, oh, Aunt is so old, she doesn't know. So that's just kind of like a fun way, I have found. But that has been, during the summer breaks that I get to see them a little bit more. And so if we're just thinking outside of those breaks, because you have a little bit more time, right, to sit, and you want to continue these tips throughout the year, where can we go? What do we do?
Absolutely. So there are two resources that I like to refer people to. So one is the readonarizona.org website. There's actually a space under publications which talks about 50 fun activities to do with your child around reading. Another great resource that launched in September of 2024 is the LitHub AZ. And lithubaz.org actually has a section that's dedicated to parents and to families, which talks about activities that you can do. If you want to talk about attendance, there's things around the chronic absence resource guide. If you're looking for how do I help a struggling reader, effective, instructional practices or things that you can do with your child, those are all captured at lithubaz.org as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, I feel like right now my brain is putting those away because, trying to read to our son who's only 7 months, so it's the big books with the big words and all the things, but to encourage that from a young age, I know that we have seen, with research that really can help them throughout the rest of their lives. So they're never too young.
They're never too young. What I always like to say is vocabulary acquisition at age 3 is actually one of the #1 predictors of reading on grade level at 3rd grade. So to your point, they're never too young. They have these rich language experiences that we can sort of bathe them in that help support those reading skills later on.
Lori, thank you so much. What a great conversation. And I just hope that this gives maybe our Today in AZ viewers some tips, some ideas, put them in the back of your mind as kids will be out next week. You got them around and use those to keep that learning strong. Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you for having me.